lounge smelled faintly of ozone and overcooked synth chicken, which was somehow the scent of every interstellar vessel trying to disguise budget issues with mood lighting and jazz. Eli tried not to fidget. He failed. His drink vibrated slightly in his hand, not from nerves, but from a poorly calibrated gravity stabilizer embedded somewhere behind the wall, or maybe from nerves. It was difficult to tell. Across from him she sat. She had legs that went on like a well-funded expedition, crossed delicately at the knee, and draped in fabric that seemed to defy light as much as it embraced it. Her hair was deep black with a shifting blue sheen, falling to one side in a style he was certain required either an advanced engineering degree or anti-gravity gel. Her ears, long, curved, elegant, rose from the sides of her head like ivory blades, slightly twitching when she caught him glancing. Then she spoke. "You keep staring at my legs, human. What bothers you so much?" The words landed like a dropped plasma core. Casual, inevitable, catastrophic. I wasn't well, I wasn't staring exactly," Eli muttered, his throat suddenly as dry as the Martian upper plains. More like appreciating. From a respectful distance. Her eyebrow arched, a perfectly executed gesture that said, "You are not helping yourself." "Interesting," she said, leaning forward with the grace of someone who'd trained in 16 styles of diplomatic warfare. "So in your culture, respectful appreciation involves hyper-focused retinal activity and incremental facial blushing." "I wasn't blushing. You are now." Eli tried to focus on his drink. The little umbrella mocked him. He removed it, tried to sip coolly, and managed to inhale a tiny citrus cube through his nose. She watched, entirely still, until he'd finished sputtering. "Are you always this charming, or is it a side effect of your inefficient internal cooling system?" "It's the recycled air," he croaked, wiping his sleeve across his face. "Low oxygen makes my brain go sideways." "I see. That would explain your earlier attempt to sit on the table instead of the chair." In my defense, it looked very chair-like. A pause, then unexpectedly a smile. "Well, you're either very brave or very unwell." Eli hesitated, then leaned back, trying to regain some fraction of dignity. "Why not both?" The woman laughed, not politely, not diplomatically, but like something had genuinely caught her off guard. It echoed through the lounge, drawing the attention of a few nearby passengers, including a two-headed couple arguing over dessert in 4 voices. Eli exhaled slowly. He survived the initial encounter, maybe even scored a point. "I'm Eli," he offered. "Eli Brennan. I'm from Earth. Born in New Vienna, raised in the Kansas Belt, currently unemployed and avoiding returning calls from 3 ex-girlfriends and 1 freelance tax AI." Her eyes sparkled, though that might have been the overhead nebula light shifting. "Viola, daughter of House Sh. Vol. Diplomatic attaché, part-time exile, full-time disappointment, also currently unemployed." "Wow," Eli said. "We already have so much in common." Viola lifted her glass, clear liquid with tiny iridescent cubes orbiting within. "To mutual unemployment. To career stagnation and poor life choices." They clinked glasses, and for a moment it felt like gravity had finally decided to behave. "So," Viola said, swirling her drink with one long finger, "how does a human end up on a slow-travel freighter headed for a trade station that smells like fermented lizard spit and houses more criminals than docking clamps?" "Looking for a job, or a reason not to get one, haven't decided yet." "And you chose this ship." "I won a ticket in a poker game." She tilted her head. "You gamble." "I'm very bad at it." "Clearly." He grinned. "What about you? What's a diplomat/disappointment doing slumming it in economy class with the rest of us degenerates?" She took a slow sip before answering. "Avoiding my mother, and my species, and most people with functioning opinions." "So vacation. Exile. Sounds like a rough itinerary." "It's better than arranged bonding ceremonies and 15-course dinners, where everyone pretends not to hate each other." "I dunno," Eli said. I'd fake a smile for 15 courses. You'd also fake death after the fourth fermented eel larva. Okay, fair. She studied him again, more curious now than amused. You're surprisingly tolerable, Eli Brennan. Is that intentional? I aim for average. Anything beyond that is accidental. Another smile, but softer this time. The background hum of the ship dimmed as they entered a quiet warp corridor, and for a moment, the nebula light through the observation window painted her skin in soft indigo. She wasn't just beautiful. She was alien. Not in the big-eyed, tentacled, take-me-to-your-leader way, but in the way she held herself like gravity was optional, like every word she spoke had been measured against 1,000 unspoken ones. He realized he was staring again. Apologies, he said quickly. I'm not used to, being around people like you. Aliens. Women who look like they could kill me with a well-timed sentence. That's not species-specific, you know. Still, you have an unfair advantage with the ears. They're distracting. Viola reached up and flicked one gently. They help with balance and intimidation and finding decent snacks in a crowded room. Multifunctional organs, I respect that. The air shifted slightly as the lounge's ventilation updated for the warp corridor. Outside, streaks of blue and violet danced past the window like rivers of plasma on a cosmic wind. Somewhere behind them, a toddler screamed at a vending machine until it spat out a plush toy shaped like a screaming asteroid. Viola tilted her head again. Tell me something true, Eli Brennan. He blinked. What, just like that? One true thing, no qualifiers, no jokes. He hesitated. His instinct was to deflect. Joke, change the subject, but something in her voice, soft but commanding, stopped him. I'm scared I'm going to die out here, he said. Not in a dramatic way, just quietly, without mattering. She nodded once slowly. A common fear among long-lived species. You're not long-lived. I'm 206, relatively young. Right, of course you are. And you, 34, which apparently translates to basically fetal. Tragically underdeveloped, she said with a mock sigh. He laughed again. She did too. You, he asked, your turn. One true thing, she murmured. I miss the gravity on my homeworld. It was stronger, denser. It pressed you into the earth like a promise. This artificial balance feels like lying. That's poetic. It's spinally unpleasant. Their eyes met. Something old and electric passed between them, unspoken and unmeasured. Then a robotic server glided past, bumped into Eli's chair, and announced in a cheerful voice, "Spill detected. Would you like a towel or a replacement lap?" Eli groaned, "Neither, thanks." Viola watched the bot speed away. Your species builds very friendly furniture. Only the ones that aren't trying to sell you insurance. You're lucky I find this entertaining. You're lucky I didn't try to sit on the table again. That remains to be seen. A moment passed, long and rich with possibilities. The observation lounge dimmed slightly as the warp corridor outside thickened with charged particles. The ship's AI crackled in the background with a low fidelity, just loop that neither of them recognized but both quietly loathed. Viola tapped her glass. We should play a game. Eli narrowed his eyes. Is it Arinthian roulette? Because I heard that involves bone fractures. No, it's simpler. You ask a question, I answer. Then I ask, you answer. No lies, no evasions. That's dangerous. It's honest. I'm not good at honest. I can tell. Eli nodded, sat back, and exhaled. All right, he said. You first. Viola leaned in, the stars catching in her eyes. Why were you really staring at my legs? He swallowed. The answer was simple and completely unwise. I thought you were going to stab me, Eli said, immediately regretting it as the words tumbled out of his mouth like poorly sorted luggage in zero-G. With your legs. Not on purpose, but, you know, like a spider or a ballet knife. Across the table, Viola blinked, slowly, as if calculating whether to laugh or demand a public apology under galactic treaty. Well, she said after a long moment, that's certainly the most original answer I've ever received to a compliment. I was trying to be honest. You sound like someone trying to explain a nervous breakdown with interpretive dance. I once actually did that at a wedding, he muttered. It was very moving, at least until someone called security. Viola's mouth twitched at the corner, a near smile, encouraging or predatory, hard to say. You humans have a strange concept of threat. You see something elegant and assume it's about to attack you. In fairness, most elegant things do attack me. Cats, glass doors, ex-girlfriends with careers in litigation. She lifted her glass in silent acknowledgement, then leaned back. All right, your turn. Eli hesitated. The ship hummed around them, its environmental systems shifting to adjust humidity. Somewhere behind them, a tall insectoid in a velvet robe tried to order 12 pancakes in binary. He cleared his throat. Do all Erinthians flirt by making their conversational partners feel like they're being dissected slowly? Only the attractive ones. He coughed on his drink. Okay, wow, that was either a compliment or a very complicated insult. It's both, she said. Erinthian humor thrives in contradiction. You'd love Earth. We make sitcoms entirely out of people pretending to like each other. Sounds exhausting. It is, that's why we invented sarcasm. A nearby console chimed with a low-frequency ping, followed by the soothing voice of the ship's AI. Attention passengers. Minor turbulence expected as we navigate a dense neutrino field. Please refrain from recreational teleportation, limb detachment, or emotionally unstable declarations of love. Viola raised a brow. That last one was oddly specific. Eli shrugged. Last week someone proposed to a sandwich during a gravity failure. She blinked. Did the sandwich say yes? It was a BLT. They're notoriously noncommittal. There was another long pause, then laughter. Real, full-bodied, slightly musical. Eli didn't know what he'd done right, but he marked it mentally like a fragile victory. She wasn't just amused, she was relaxing. Or at least recalibrating her threat assessment of him from mildly edible to generally tolerable. So, she said at last, you've now made a comment about my legs, my flirting, and the emotional availability of sandwiches. You're building quite the resume. I've got depth, he said, like a puddle. And modesty. That too. Their game continued. Back and forth with each question sliding a little closer to dangerous. He asked, what do those markings on your fingers mean? She answered, promises, some broken, some kept. It's how Erinthians record the important things. You tattoo contracts on paper, we carry them on our skin. She asked, why did you leave Earth? He said, because Earth didn't notice when I stayed. He asked, how old were you when you learned to speak Konglish? She said, 37. I learned from a scavenged sitcom database and a very angry diplomat. She asked, do you believe in love? He laughed. I believe in taxes and space debris and the inevitability of awkward silences. And then her tone shifted. Have you ever killed someone? The question dropped like a reactor core. Eli blinked, stunned by the sudden weight in her voice. The lounge around them carried on, lights dimmed to mimic evening, the subtle drone of the ship purring like a giant, sleepy beast, but the air between them tightened. He considered lying, considered deflecting. Then he said quietly once, during a mining contract on Kesari Prime, airlock failure, my call, it wasn't sabotage, but someone died. Viola said nothing for a long time, then very softly, mistakes are still deaths. Erinthians say a life taken unintentionally still ripples through the stars. I know. Silence again, then she raised her glass to ripples. They drank slowly. Then came the next interruption. The AI chimed again. This time less calmly. Security alert, unauthorized boarding detected in maintenance corridor B12. All passengers remain in designated sections. Repeat, unauthorized boarding. Probability of threat, 73.4%. Probability of overreaction, 91.2%. Eli stared at the speaker. That's not exactly reassuring. It's honest, Viola said, setting her glass down. Which is worse? She stood in one fluid movement, already assessing exits, scanning the lounge. Several passengers were already glancing around nervously. A heavy-set Trapanite clutched his carry sack, muttering in low-frequency squeals. A human couple with a sleepy toddler locked themselves behind a privacy shield. Then they arrived, three figures in low-grade black armor, faces obscured behind flickering hollow visors. Not pirates, too clean, conglomerate enforcers. Human, government-sanctioned moralists with guns and scanners, forever on the hunt for species-sensitive violations. Eli felt Viola shift beside him. Her posture straightened, her expression slid into something diplomatic and disdainful all at once. The lead enforcer stepped forward. "Papers." Viola flashed a wide, cold smile. "Oh, darling, that's such a quaint word. Do you want physical documentation or the biometric footprint I left on the crewman who tried to flirt with me during customs?" The enforcer did not smile. Identification now. Eli could feel the tension spiking. He glanced at Viola's hand. It hovered too close to the concealed blade tucked along her thigh. She wasn't going to cooperate. She was going to win. So he panicked. "She's my fiancée," he blurted. Everyone, including the AI, paused. Viola turned her head very slowly. "Am I?" He smiled weakly. Surprise. The enforcers exchanged looks. One raised a scanner toward Viola, who promptly slapped it out of his hand with such elegant disdain it almost seemed polite. "She's Erinthian nobility," Eli added quickly. "You touch her without clearance, and that's a Class 4 diplomatic incident." "That's not true," the enforcer growled. Eli shrugged. "Do you really want to find out?" There was a pause. The team hesitated. Then Viola stepped closer, sliding her arm around Eli's waist, face suddenly alight with amused affection. "You humans do have your moments. We're unpredictable that way. We should tell them about the bonding ritual," she purred. Eli blinked. "We should." "Oh yes, the ancient leg-staring ceremony, vital to our people." "Vital," he echoed, "deeply meaningful." The enforcers stared. After a long moment the leader growled, "Fine, keep it quiet, don't leave the lounge." They turned and left. Silence. Then the AI whispered, "Alert downgraded, tension levels at 62%. Please resume questionable romantic decisions." Viola didn't let go, not immediately. Her head tilted as she studied him. "That was either very stupid," she said softly, "or very brave. I like to think of it as recklessly inspired." She stepped back, finally releasing him. "You lied for me." I panicked. "It was a good lie." "Thank you. Now you owe me." He sighed. "That's fair." She picked up her glass again. "Let's see how deep your puddle really goes, Eli Brennan." And just like that, the tension dissolved. The moment stretched between them, dangerous and absurd, shimmering with the kind of spark that only comes from mutual danger, poor decision-making, and unexpected connection. The game resumed. Viola woke him up by tossing a warm protein bar at his face. Eli grunted, rolled off the lounge couch, and landed with a grunt somewhere between dignity and static cling. The wrapper clung to his cheek. He blinked up at her, hair crooked in every direction, his shirt rumpled enough to make a sentient iron sigh in despair. "We're docking in 5 hours," she said, already lacing her boots, tall, gleaming things that looked like they could kill a small committee if necessary. "Eat something. Try not to faint heroically in front of customs." "Heroic fainting is kind of my thing," he muttered, peeling the wrapper off his face. "But thanks for the snack assault, really gentle." "It's nutrition-enhanced and contains 47% real corn derivative. Consider it a favor." He sat up, rubbed his eyes. "So what's the plan?" Viola adjusted the scanner band on her wrist, now flickering with encrypted glyphs. "Simple, we meet my contact, offload the seed, try not to get arrested or vaporized. You know, romance stuff." Eli blinked. "You consider this a date? You told armed enforcers we were engaged. I consider that a proposal in at least 6 cultures. Can I propose we not die instead? That's the boring kind of proposal." She grinned, and for a moment, Eli forgot they were technically still fugitives and possibly on multiple watch lists. He stood, stretching out the night's stiffness, and walked with her to the lounge's central console. The starfield had shifted, the swirling chaos of the Nemosa system now visible in full orbital bloom. The trade hub itself floated in the distance. Nemosa 5, a giant metallic blossom suspended above a purple gas giant, petals spinning slowly to accommodate dozens of docking bays. The entire structure pulsed with soft light, like the galaxy's largest spinning jewelry box. Eli whistled. "You sure your friend can be trusted?" Viola shrugged. "Trusted, no. Bribed, absolutely." They returned to the crew deck and Viola handed him a tiny silver disc the size of a fingernail. "Wear this in your left ear. Translator patch. My contact speaks Aranthan war dialect. It's mostly metaphors and veiled insults. So dinner with my aunt. If your aunt communicates through predator-based haiku, yes." The hallway lights flickered again, the ship's AI speaking with its usual misplaced optimism. "Docking sequence initiated. Please remember to collect all personal belongings, emotional baggage, and lingering regrets." Eli glanced at Viola. "Got all yours." "I travel light." Customs was almost disappointingly smooth. Viola used a false identity chip, now registered under the name Trelana Kinvo, a minor celebrity in 3 systems and an alleged collector of scandalous shoes. Eli just smiled a lot and pretended to be her personal assistant/legal counsel. No one asked questions, probably because her outfit looked like it had diplomatic immunity built into the stitching. They stepped into the upper atrium, where holographic koi swam lazily through the air, and a street vendor yelled something about live moss tacos at a passing android. Nemosa 5 bustled in controlled chaos. Vendors, engineers, dignitaries, smugglers, even a delegation of sentient fog drifted through the halls, discussing trade tariffs in a misty dialect only Viola seemed to understand. Her contact was already waiting in a side lounge near the arboretum, leaning against a pillar like someone who'd long ago stopped fearing consequences. They were tall, cloaked, and covered in chrome implants that glinted with diplomatic encryption tags. The right eye glowed blue, the left was missing entirely and replaced with a spinning lens like a microscopic telescope adjusting focus. "Krelth," Viola said. "Little Leaf," the contact replied, voice modulated and slightly amused. "You bring your human, adorable." Eli offered a wave. "Hey, I'm here for moral support and bad decisions." "You are succeeding," Krelth replied, already reaching for a scanner. The exchange happened quickly. Viola's wristband synced with Krelth's, blinking rapidly as they transferred something small, digital, and very illegal. The biotech seed, genetic code and nanite framework compressed into an encrypted microvault, shifted from her body to Krelth's with a faint vibration that made Eli's teeth ache. Then it was done. Krelth gave a curt nod. "This changes things." "It needs to," Viola said, tone suddenly colder. "We're dying at home. Politics won't save us. This might." Krelth didn't argue, just vanished into the crowd. Eli exhaled slowly. So that was it. For now, they wandered down a quieter promenade, far from the chaos of arrivals and shuttles. A ceiling of transparent alloy opened the sky above them, stars swirling slowly over the gas giant below. The moment felt like a lull in a storm that hadn't hit yet. "I should vanish for a while," Viola said. "I figured." "You're still staring." "Only because I want to remember the look on your face when you thought I was proposing." That was the most romantic impersonation of panic I've ever seen. They stopped at a noodle stand operated by a robot named Hunger Knight 5, who offered complimentary sauce in the shape of famous philosophers. Over steaming bowls of spicy synthetic joy, they finally talked without performance. She told him about the faction back home pushing to block genetic independence, how the seed she carried could help unlock resilience in Arinthian children born under flawed gravity. He told her about the job he'd been running from, an offer on Ganymede he'd never answered, afraid of failing at something that wasn't just routine. They shared stories, Embarrassments. That one time Eli tried to outdrink a synthetic and blacked out for a week. The time Viola outdueled a rival diplomat with nothing but a spoon and a poem about combustion. Eventually the noodles were gone. The gas giant kept spinning. Neither of them moved. "You know," she said softly, "you were never just a distraction." He looked at her. "You know you can't say something like that and then disappear dramatically into the stars." "I can do both. I'm multi-talented." Eli smiled. "Will I see you again?" "Possibly." "That's not reassuring." "It's honest." She reached across the table, touched his hand. Not a tease, not a trap, just contact, real. He squeezed it gently. "For what it's worth, I'd lie to more space cops for you. And I'd fake more marriages for you." They stood, not quite letting go of each other until a crowd bumped through and made the decision for them. Viola handed him a small device, flat silver pulsing faintly. "What's this?" "Locator beacon, one-time use. Don't waste it on boredom." "And if I do?" "Then I'll arrive, lecture you and steal your socks." "Why my socks?" "I've never owned human socks. I imagine they're disappointingly warm." He laughed, tucked the beacon into his jacket and stepped back. "You really are the weirdest woman I've ever met." "I should hope so." They parted. She vanished into the crowd, long ears flicking once in farewell. Eli watched until she was gone. Later, as his shuttle drifted out of orbit, he sat alone by the viewport, hands in his lap, and stared at the planet below. He was still jobless, still